Brian. Thank you for saying hello in the comments. If anyone else is here, feel free to say hello, maybe where you're from, if you have any questions about tonight's topic, anything that you are curious about in terms of sugar and sugar cravings. It's really nice to have you guys interact, and I'll try my best to continue to look at the comments and answer any questions that you have. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joanne Doe, and I'm a practitioner here at Natural Healing Center. We are a holistic health or natural health care practice located in Newport Beach, right by John Wayne Airport. So tonight we're going to be talking all about sugar, why we get sugar cravings, why it would be best to reduce or avoid excess sugar, and what we can do to curb our cravings, and then also how to handle them as they come up. So let's talk a little bit about why we have sugar cravings to begin with. So our body is constantly trying to communicate with us, and actually us having a sugar craving is one way, like one message from our body. And if we can learn to listen to and pay attention to those messages and give the body what it needs, it will help us stay balanced and healthy. So let me give you an example so you can kind of visualize what I'm talking about. Let's say that you have a really long, crazy day at work, or maybe you were out all day Christmas shopping and you either decided to skip lunch or you forgot and you didn't have lunch at all, so you hadn't eaten all day, and now you're getting home from work and you're exhausted and you're really, really hungry. So you might hear this message from your body that you want something sweet or something carby to eat, and once you reach for that, you might find that you have a little bit more of it than you wouldn't have had otherwise. So in this scenario, your body is communicating that your blood sugar is about to crash and you need something sweet to bring it back into balance. The same thing happens when we go on a sugar binge and say we have a bunch of sugar, a bag of chips or something like that. Eventually, so what's happening is our blood sugar is spiking, and eventually it's going to crash and we're going to experience more sugar cravings so we can get back to baseline. And it's unfortunate too, because the more we have sugar, the more we want it. It's highly addictive, like a drug. So just keep in mind, sugar cravings are messages from our bodies that it's in need of something, whether that's food, whether that's some kind of soothing, because a lot of times we may turn to sugar when we're like stressed or anxious, and we want to find healthy ways to cope with that stress that don't entail us eating sugar. So what is the big problem with sugar? So there are many reasons, and I'll go over a few, but one is sugar causes inflammation. So you can think of this in terms of pain. Where are you experiencing pain in your body? And that might be a headache, it might be a toothache, it might be stomach pain, joint pain is a big one, muscle pain. Whenever you hear the suffix itis in a word, like pancreatitis, gastritis, arthritis, those are all indicative of inflammation. So sugar can be contributing or exacerbating the inflammation that is in the body. It may be one of a few causes, but it can be a major one. Okay. Other causes, nutrition response testing allows us to identify food sensitivities, heavy metal toxicity, chemical toxicity in the body, whether scars are bothering you. So that's what I mean when there might be other causes. Nutrition response testing is what we practice here at Natural Healing Center, and I'll go over a little bit more about that a little later on. So sugar also weakens your immune system. So This time of year especially, sugar is everywhere, and we call it flu season, but it's also high sugar season as well, because we go from candy at Halloween, we move right into Thanksgiving, we have a lot of pumpkin pies and mashed potatoes and carby foods, and then straight into Christmas with all our holiday treats and snacks and tasty foods that we like to eat. Helps, really works to also bring down our immune system. So another reason why we should be mindful of sugar. Another one is that sugar actually pulls minerals like calcium and magnesium out of bones. So think of cavities. That's actually your teeth eroding because minerals are being stripped. And it can also affect other bones in our body, which can lead to weak bones. And additionally, lack of minerals really can affect our moods. So sugar can actually contribute to why we're feeling irritable or anxious or depressed. On top of that, sugar really can disrupt our sleep, which is so important for our health and healing. So just a few reasons why it would be best to reduce or avoid added sugar. And so let's talk next about what you can do to curb your sugar cravings. So one thing that I mentioned previously in that example was, wanting to maintain a stable blood sugar. So you want to make sure that you're eating regularly and also that you're eating the right foods to keep that blood sugar stable. So one of the foods that would be really good to incorporate are healthy fats, because healthy fats help to stabilize blood sugar levels, and they also help you to stay fuller for longer. So just by eating more healthy fats and cutting back on sugar, your body is going to start to use more fat whenever it needs energy. So what are some good fats that would help to curb sugar cravings? Some examples would be raw nuts and seeds, coconut, olive oil, avocados, and fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardine. Those would be really great. Almond butter, any kind of nut butters like that, they would be a good addition too. And they work really well for me when I feel like I'm getting a little bit hungry or even having a sugar craving. Other foods that would be really good to incorporate to curb sugar cravings would be fermented foods. So fermented foods, like other sour foods, are actually really great at reducing sugar cravings. If you've ever had a fermented food like sauerkraut, which is kind of a fermented cabbage, you probably notice that after you eat it, it leaves a neutral aftertaste in your mouth. And actually, that neutral aftertaste suppresses your desire for sweets, and so that's how it can help to curb sugar cravings. Another benefit of fermented foods is that it also provides the gut with healthy doses of good bacteria, which help to obviously help with your microbiome health, which helps with your moods and your immune system. But another thing that's really beneficial is that it helps to combat candida. So when you have candida, if that's something that you're experiencing, you need to be really, really mindful of your foods, especially sugar. And that's because candida actually feed on sugar. So when we have excess candida, it actually drives us to eat more and more sugar. So we have really great success working with clients to overcome candida using their foods in addition to certain supplements that are going to help to address that immune challenge and clear it from the body. So feel free to ask any questions about that. I'll be going more in detail about initial consult and how we can work with you on symptoms such as candida. But going back to fermented foods, by upping your fermented foods, it's going to help to promote a healthy microbiome and naturally neutralize your sugar cravings. All right, so what else you can do to curb sugar cravings is you can use a natural sugar substitute. So some examples would be an unrefined stevia, a monk fruit, or coconut sugar. So starting with stevia is a naturally sweet herb, and it's a great sugar substitute because it won't raise your blood sugar the same way that actual sugar does. The one thing with stevia though is that you still have to check the label, because you want to use a high quality stevia, again, that's unrefined. Even some stevias that you'll find at the grocery store, unfortunately, either they're refined or they have certain additives. So for example, sugar in the raw, I think, has like some kind of fruit sugar in it, but it's not only stevia, so that's why you got to pay attention to your labels. One brand that we really like is called Sweet Leaf Stevia, and that's because it's been really minerally processed, and I just get, it takes me a while to go through too, because it's really, really sweet, but I just get the liquid drops, and I really just use it for drinks like teas and stuff like that when I feel like it. But even that dropper will last me like 6 months. Other options that would work well are monk fruit and also coconut sugar. They either have a like no or very little glycemic index, and the glycemic indexes indicates how much it raises your blood sugar. So I touched on this a little bit, but I'll go into more detail now. Is when it comes to sugar, you also really want to pay attention to food labels, because sugar, again, is everywhere, and sometimes it's really obvious. For example, we anticipate that sugar is most likely going to be in like the baked goods we see, like cookies, cakes. It's going to be in soft drinks and whatnot. But sugar also makes its way into less obvious sources. So, for example, tomato sauce, ketchup, salad dressings can be often loaded with sugar. Nut milks, yogurts that have fruit in them. So if you have like a blueberry yogurt or strawberry yogurt, it's going to have a lot more sugar than just the plain variety. It also sneaks into, high doses of sugar can sneak into like cereal and granola. So make sure with any kind of packaged food that you're reading the label, and also that you are familiarizing yourself with the many different names for sugar. Because again, it can be obvious, like cane sugar or honey, maple, things like that, but it can also go by other names like corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup or brown rice syrup or dextrose or sucrose, or the list goes on. I think there's like 70 something names for sugar. So get yourself a little familiarized with those names. And also, with reading ingredients on labels, you want to make sure overall the list is relatively short. You can pronounce everything on there, and if that's not the case, it might be best to avoid. Okay, I'm just going to check my notes to make sure that I'm getting everything here for you guys. So, yeah, the reason that we want to be extra careful is, again, sugar is like a drug. So if you're consuming these foods not knowing that they have sugar in them, your body is going to continue to have those sugar cravings because it's having sugar and it's wanting more. All right. In addition to those packaged foods that contain sugar, you also want to avoid drinks that contain processed sugar. So examples would be like fruit juices, coffees, hot like coffee and tea lattes that you might get, energy drinks, iced teas that are sweetened, sodas. You can find like Gatorades and things like that. You can find like a crazy amount of sugar in those. I was at like a coffee shop recently and I was asking the staff, what I could get unsweetened, and there was like literally like no options at all. It was like an herbal tea that they were out of, and I ended up getting like a frothed almond milk with cinnamon with my colleagues, and it was actually like very delightful. But I mean, it just kind of goes to show you that it's everywhere, and you can't assume that something doesn't have it, so it's always good to ask. And also, when it comes to weight management, save your calories with the drinks. Just drink more water. And if you are not drinking enough water, a sugar craving can actually be a sign that you're just dehydrated and you need water. So if, say, in the afternoon you're feeling a little bit tired and like that's a sign of dehydration. So you want to make sure that you're getting plenty of water, or you think you get a message from your body and think, oh, I need to eat something like sweet. Go for water first. That's a really good practice to do too, because it can fill you up. It can kind of give the body what it needs in that moment to come back into balance. So the best time to drink water is in the mornings. So you can set a tall glass of water on your nightstand, down at first thing, and go for getting half your body weight in ounces of water every day. Okay. Other tips to curb sugar cravings would be to use more sweet spices, which are going to help satisfy those sweet cravings. So, sweet spices would be like vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom. They can be added to your baked goods, to your buckwheat, to your smoothies, to your teas, and a lot more. And also, these spices will have really great health benefits too. So, vanilla is an antioxidant and it helps to lower cholesterol, and it also helps with moods. So, it helps with anxiety and depression. Cinnamon is another example. It's an anti inflammatory and it helps to regulate your blood sugar, and has actually been shown to improve diabetes. So some sweet spices, and then in addition to sweet spices to satisfy your sweet tooth, you can also embrace sweet fruits and sweet veggies. And I'll give you a little bit more information about this, but basically these whole foods, things that haven't been processed, contain the vitamins and minerals that our body needs. So what do I mean by sweet veggies? So that would be like sweet potatoes, beets would be another one, pumpkin. They're packed with antioxidants and enzymes that are great for your skin, great for digestive health, and also reducing inflammation. And then with fruits, I would say go towards the more like low glycemic fruits like berries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. But with those, go organic, because they are porous. So you want to make sure that you go organic, and also that you wash them really, really well. So you can do like a water and vinegar soak and make sure you get any kind of chemicals or residual like pesticides off of them. So a note here that while these foods are generally good for us, the sweet fruits and the sweet veggies, if you are dealing with any kind of immune challenge, so by that I mean, candida, parasites, bacteria, virus, it would be in your body's best interest to avoid these foods at this time, because again, while they are generally good, they can exacerbate those types of immune challenges. And so that's something that we do here at Natural Healing Center, working with clients to focus on the foods that would be best for their body. And as it has the opportunity to rebuild and strengthen and rebalance itself, we can slowly incorporate foods back in. So it's not a forever thing, it's temporary while the body heals whatever it needs to prioritize at that time. Okay. So next is with sugar cravings and making sure that you are keeping them at bay. You will also want to pay attention to making sure you're getting enough sleep. So you might notice on the days that you haven't slept really well and you're really tired that you are craving more sugar. And so why is that happening? That's because the body wants a quick shot of energy when it's sleep deprived or when it's tired, and so that's why you're getting that sugar craving. So, we all might have it night here or there that we're not sleeping so well for whatever reason, but we just want to pay attention that we're not chronically low on sleep, because that's going to increase our sugar cravings. And so we want to do our best to get consistent, adequate sleep, especially with this time of year. I know we have so much going on. We have like friends visiting, and we're staying up, we're shopping, we're wrapping, we're getting stuff set up. So my tip for you is go within 1 hour of your usual sleep schedule. So if you are sleeping typically like at 10 p.m. you're in bed, I would say try to get in bed by 11. So you give yourself some flexibility, but you're still staying consistent with your regular sleep habits. Okay, so those are some tips to help you reduce sugar cravings overall. But we may find from time to time, even with all the hard work that we put in, that we still get sugar cravings. And that's going to happen, so we can expect that and not be upset when they do. But what can we do when they happen? Okay, so I'll talk about that next, how to handle them. So, one thing that you can do is instead of purchasing desserts at the grocery store, like cookies and cakes, ice cream, whatnot, it would be beneficial if you made your own, because that way you can really control the amount of sugar that's in your desserts or other like sweet foods. For example, like in most recipes, it'll call for a certain amount of sugar, but honestly, most of the time, you really don't need that. You can go for like one, you can even reduce it by like 1/3, if not even 1/2, and it's still going to taste pretty sweet. You can make your own cakes, cookies, granola, protein balls, or protein bars, and you can, instead of sugar, you can use stevia, like an unrefined stevia. You can use monk fruit or coconut sugar. You can find like tables online that will say like, okay, instead of this much honey, use this much stevia, or instead of this much maple, use this much stevia, so that you know how much to use. Another example would be like, store-bought yogurt, and instead of getting like the fruit yogurt that already has the fruit in it, you can purchase the plain yogurt. You can add, some berries in there if you like, or another option would be like adding some stevia or monk fruit to it, again, so you have control of how sweet it is and how much sugar is actually in there. And then in addition to desserts, you can also make your own sauces. You can make your own salad dressings, again, which will have more sugar content at the grocery store, when you can make something really simple at home. And I honestly don't bake. I'm not much of a baker, but one of my go-tos when I'm having a sugar craving is just almond butter, and I find it naturally sweet, and it's also, again, it's a healthy fat, so it helps to keep me satiated, especially when I'm pairing it with something like celery. Um, and then another thing that I do is I drink like warm or hot tea. And for me, it's really soothing, like after a meal. And so if I like was wanting a dessert, I feel like after the tea, like I'm pretty satisfied. But let's go into, so that was one tip, is making your own desserts and whatnot. But what you can also do is, when you're having a sugar craving, is to go with a healthier option. So for example, like I'm a big chocolate fan, and instead of doing like a chocolate that's loaded with sugar, or even like a milk chocolate, there's a brand, or there's a few different brands that you can get that are sugar free, that are stevia sweetened. And I get dark chocolate, so it doesn't have the dairy in it, but Lily's is a brand like that. Other brands that I've recommended before, but like Simple Mills and Ciete, they'll make their cookies with coconut sugar, so that's going to be a better option. I also like Julian Bakery. They have a really good grain-free granola that's made with seeds and is sweetened with monk fruit. So even though these brands they're really great at including like clean ingredients and keeping the glycemic index low, more or less, they're still treats. So, and they're still like a process. So you don't want to be having them every day, or like a big quantity of them, but you can enjoy like a little bit occasionally. So you're having maybe like a cookie or like a handful of granola as opposed to like multiple cookies or like the whole bag. So just of granola. So just keep that in mind too. Even though something is a better option for you, you don't want to like overdo it on them either. Um, if you are used to kind of reaching for soda, an option would be like a sparkling water, or there are some like low sugar or stevia sweetened sodas out there. So Zevia is one that is stevia sweetened, and then Olipop is another one, and that one has a little bit of sugar, but I think it's just like 2 grams or something like that. But yeah, sparkling water would be your best option, but coconut water, that's another one. Again, go with an unsweetened variety, and it will have the natural sugars in it already. So that one's really good at also keeping you hydrated. So if you're like working out or something like that, I recommend coconut sugar. Will help with like electrolytes. Okay. All right. Another thing you can do when a sugar craving strikes is this is a practice in mindfulness, but you learn to take a pause so that you are responding to the sugar craving, you're not reacting to it. So what do I mean by that is like say you have a sugar craving come up and like you don't even like pause to think, you just like reach for and grab like the cookie or whatever it is. But instead, what you can do is just take 2 seconds and just notice, like, okay, I'm having a sugar craving. And my suggestion would be is to kind of busy yourself. So you notice that it's there and you do something else. So maybe you take your dog for a walk, you call a friend, you throw some laundry in the wash, and you kind of busy yourself, and you may notice that you're not even having that craving anymore. Another thing you do when you take that pause is that you can just kind of check in with how you're feeling, because you might notice that oftentimes when we're stressed, when we're sad, when we're angry or anxious, our the message that we might be getting is to kind of soothe ourselves, and one way that we think to soothe ourselves is like through food. But I would encourage you in that moment to consider what else would be soothing and also beneficial for you. So maybe that's going for a walk, maybe that's like moving your body some way, whether it's dancing or it's doing yoga or it's working out, calling a friend. We're all different, so we want to check in with what works for us. And then lastly, from time to time, we're also going to want to just enjoy. And so, but when we enjoy, I encourage you to do it mindfully. So, what do I mean by that is say you have a sugar craving, you busy yourself and you call your friend, and then you still kind of have your sugar craving. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to have, you know, this this piece of cake that's been staring at me that I got left over from Thanksgiving, I'm going to decide to have that, and I'm going to have about like I'll have a half of it right now, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it, and then I'm going to continue on. I'm not going to like eat the whole cake or whatever. So you're choosing consciously to make that decision, how much of it that you're going to enjoy of it. Okay. And that's and you should, and I think that there is like a place for that as well. We in no way have to be perfect. I go by kind of like a 90-10 rule, where it's like 90% of the time I am following my foods and going with the foods that I thank you, Jade, I appreciate you. Going with the foods that I know that are going to help my body, and then 10% of the time I may be out with friends, I may be on vacation, I might be at a holiday party, and it's like good, better, best in those scenarios, and there's a place for enjoyment as well. So that is our talk on sugar. If you have any questions, feel free to write those in the comments. And I touched on it a bit, but at Natural Healing Center, hi Roxanne. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you too. Thank you all for joining in your comments. So we practice nutrition response testing, and we have this really great special going on right now that I want to share with you guys. So typically a initial consultation takes place over 2 days time. The first day is all about testing and getting to know you. So we look for the cause of whatever symptoms you may be experiencing, whether that's hormonal imbalance, whether it's digestion, skin issues, and we look for the causes which may be related to bugs like parasites, bacteria, scars, heavy metals, chemicals, food sensitivities, including sugar. And then we will also test to see what would help to rebalance the body in a natural way. So that could be like herbs, homeopathic formulas, whole food supplements, stem cells, and whatnot. And then we invite you back a second day to go over all those findings with you and our recommendations. So typically the cost of that is $2.99 for December only. So for the next 2 weeks or so, that is going down to $1.99. So that is the biggest promotion we see on an initial consultation ever. And then on top of that, there'll be some additional discounts. Hi Coral, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Feel free to write any questions that you have. And yeah, so there'll be some additional discounts going on till the end of the month too. So if you have yourself going through something, anyone you know, please do give us a call if you want any more information about that. If you like the information in this video, if you have someone in mind that it would really benefit, especially with the deal that's going on today, I really do encourage you to share it. And any other topics that you want to see discussed, feel free to write those in as well. Next week I'm going to be talking about parasites, just in time for Christmas. So parasites, if you have kind of unexplainable symptoms, whether it has to do with being like sleep or digestive issues or bowel movements, a lot of times parasites can be to blame, and they can be hard to catch with conventional tests, but with muscle testing it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to talk about parasites. What are the symptoms? How do you get parasites, where they might be coming from, causes, and also what you can do about it. And so more on that later, but I want to thank you so much again, as always, for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time, whether you're here live with me or you are catching this replay later on. So I hope to connect with you soon, and thanks so much again. All right, thank you, Brian. Yeah, appreciate it. All right, take care, you guys, and have a good night.